Hello.
Hey,
Welcome home, Peter.
thank you. A bit rainy.
Oh my god.
It was just a short bit for me, so that's fine.
It's just pouring down, huh?
And you didn't travel too far either. Rain has stopped, and here we are. Welcome to our house.
Hi.
It's good. You got some tea also.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. I love that Peter is drinking water out of a old gasoline container that's used in water for a time.
I'm trying to repair my bike, and you know, our other glasses, they really didn't fit in picture, but I like this one.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah, and I like that I'm not drinking out of it.
But I cleaned it before, I promise you. A little bit of gasoline.
I like that I have the lady version here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, what are we going to talk about today?
Let's talk about you, Sonny.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about yourself. Like I don't really like the American expression, like tell me your story. It's very American to me. Like you have to have a story, but we're curious in a way about like who you are.
Yeah. When I hear who are you or what's your story, I always feel there's a little bit of a contraction coming.
Exactly.
Because who am I is a big question which has been with me for a long time, and it's like redefining, reinventing myself all the time, so I will never have a definite answer to that, right?
No.
And my story is something where I think, oh, it has been so much suffering that I want to be in here and now, and I don't want to connect to the story, but of course it's something which makes other people connect with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me take a breath and I can share a little bit of that. Yeah, so my story is that I am German. My name is Sunny. I'm 45 years old, and I am coming from a corporate world background. So I'm one of those people who have an MBA and have been working on a high potential, high performance job in management consultancy, traveling internationally, running massive projects with a budget in millions of dollars, having a lot of responsibility and managing big teams. And the last 2 years in that time I was a de-escalation manager, which means that if a project is about to escalate, I'm coming in and sorting out the things, right? So you can imagine it's a sandwich position because everybody is very tense and it's a lot about power. So big power games in corporate world, and also it's about existence, because if you're a head of division and you have a project of that size, or you're CEO or whatever, you're gonna be fired, right? If this is not working. So all of these people in high positions fighting and finding the one to blame, me coming in on completely just wanting to have a solution.
Yeah.
So I've always had a different approach. I was never interested in who's here to blame. I was just thinking about the solution, and that has been with me all of my life. Anyway, yeah.
When you say you have been, so you're not in that anymore?
No, I would actually be
Thank
dead.
God.
I would
Thank
be
God.
dead already if I would still be in there, because in some point I was so run down with all of my energy and my body and my nervous system and how I created my life that nothing made any sense anymore. So I was in deep depression. I had panic attacks. I was drinking a lot to compensate. I couldn't relax anymore at all. I was just like on a high pace and functioning like a robot.
Wow.
So in the end I was doing 3 jobs and just being paid at once, but I was so in my fear of not being enough and not having enough performance that I just took in more And my company, the last one, took a lot of advantage out of that, right?
Yeah.
So that's how they squeeze the juice out of people, and that's very draining. So what happened was that one day I woke up and I just looked around and I went into a panic attack straight away. So I was in a 5-star hotel, one of, I don't know, I did that for 10 years, right? International Management Consultancy. And I completely lost any orientation. I had no idea who I am, in which country I am, which city, which client, what am I doing here? So completely lost. And it took me a while to calm down, and I realized, okay, yeah, I'm in New York. I'm working with a project which is high tension, high level, a lot of money involved. I tried to sort it out, and I just can't do this anymore. I'm so disconnected, and it doesn't make any sense. I'm not interested in any financial consolidation or planning. I'm not interested if a big company can do their financial close 2 days faster, which for them is really important. And for me, it just doesn't matter.
So you were in New York and you had this panic attack
Yes.
in your hotel room.
In the hotel room.
But what did you do? Did you stay with the client or did you run away?
I finished that project, which was like 3 more days. I flew back to Germany. I went to the office. I packed my stuff. I called in sick, and I never returned back to the office.
Wow.
And I had no idea what's going to happen. The only thing I knew is this is about life or death for me. Because I've been going through loops of burnout, almost burnout, few times. So I had heart issues. My kidneys didn't work anymore. I'm a suicide survivor. So this thought of senselessness and suicide has been with me since I was a child. So my childhood was also filled with a lot of violence, with many different protagonists. So physical violence, emotional violence, psychological violence, being bullied at school because I was different, because I didn't learn how to relate with people, and then coming into performance and studying, and
so this is very interesting.
all this one row, like violence, 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 and how to cope with it, going into high performance mode, right?
Yeah, so you mean that you being bullied at school and having a difficult environment at home made you who you were in the corporate world?
Yes. Because I was working, well, I always thought I have to do better, that people like me. And I was the typical doormat. And I was very needy. So I tried to make it right just to make people love me. And the only way which I've learned is try to have really good grades at school and try to perform in the job. So I had no idea what it means to have healthy relationships.
So you continued that pattern all the way.
This was the only thing I knew. And I know many people of my generation, not so many had exactly that childhood with so much violence. That's kind of, it's a strong one, but just growing up in this environment of you have to perform, you have to improve, you have to have a job, then have a house, then have children, be functioning, be social. There's so much should and have to. And is that the world? How can I live in there? Do I find my peace, right?
So basically you had this for a long time and then you quit your job.
Yeah, because nothing made any sense anymore. Nothing.
And what happened after that?
I went, I switched my whole focus, and I said, I'm gonna focus on one thing now, and that's a big project, and it's called Sunny. Yeah. And the first thing I did, because I was so run down and so exhausted, and I was really struggling with suicidal thoughts. If nothing makes sense anymore, why should you continue living? Cannot, right? You cannot do that.
No.
And I felt I'm really on the edge, so how many more loops of this can my body take? So this time I have to make something different from before. So with calling in sick, I got myself like a break. I didn't know at that time that I would never return.
No.
That was coming later in a natural flow. So the first thing I did was I gave up my apartment. I put all my stuff into storage because I knew I have to be flexible for whatever comes, because there's a big unknown. It was like jumping, no idea what's coming. There was a lot of fear, but I knew I have to change or I'm not going to survive. And then I went into a psychosomatic clinic. So it's an amazing concept we have in Germany, where you have psychotherapy, you have one-on-ones, you have group therapy, you have movement therapy. So you have a lot which is around all the layers of the body. It's about the psyche, the emotions, and the body. So it's connecting everything. So you can go there when you are still able to make decisions. So if you would be in a psychosis or highly in an addiction, you cannot do that because you need to take care of that first. But it was really an amazing time for me to stabilize, and it took actually 5 months until I was so stabilized that I thought, okay, I want to continue living. It's very clear. And now I'm going to look at what is the situation, and I'm going to define for every area of my life what I really want. And that is totally detached from what I thought is possible, because that was the framework I was in before. It's like, yeah, I have to make money to pay my apartment. So I was part of this system and I didn't find a way out. And that's something what I know from many people. They ask me, how did you do that? And how did you transform into where you are now? It's not a black and white thing, right? But I was looking at every area. Job, I was completely acting from a space of fear. Relationship, competition, drama, projection, friends, not really connected anymore because I was so busy in my job. Environment where I was living, it was too noisy, and the neighbors, there was something going on, so also there was no more space to relax. So I looked at my life and I was like, wow, this is like a war. So no wonder that I have no more space to relax, right? Usually you have 1 or 2 areas where it's fine, but I didn't have a space to resource.
No. And that's, in my opinion, relaxation is one of the most important things. Because, I mean, if we go to different gurus and different practices, a lot of people are talking about the ultimate stage, which they call enlightenment. And believe it or not, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but I believe that the ultimate stage is relaxation. Because if you relax so deep that you kind of melt into everything.
Yes.
So, I mean, just the lack of relaxation and also the lack of knowledge of what relaxation really is in the normal world, or at least where I come from in Sweden, in Stockholm, most people do not relax that deeply, or they don't know what it is.
Or they think they relax and they use, as I did, I was drinking. So it was already that I knew if I go home and I get my glass of red wine, then I can relax. But hey, that's not healthy. No. It's not relaxation, it's numbing myself out, putting this pink filter, and then everything feels like it's not that bad, right? But actually it was a nightmare how my life was, right? It did not suit me at all. It did not suit me to be part of this matrix and function, and all my wounds getting activated and try to do, and coming to the relaxation. There's so much doing. Everybody does and does and does. And a deep relaxation means that you stop doing and you come to a space of you can just be. You can just be, right?
I think I just read somewhere that 10% of Swedish people are on antidepressants. I was actually shocked. Even Sweden now, like I understand, like in America it's very common, like, but 10% in Sweden.
Yeah.
For me it's like unbelievable, you know.
It is unbelievable.
But was it like when you were in this corporate world? Am I right that you were still though practicing yoga and meditation, right? Did you feel like a divide in a pull, like you were feeling a bit guilty that you were not pursuing what you already knew was a more fulfilling life? right? Because you had kind of like a framework that yoga meditation, those states that those practices helps you to come to is kind of the right path, right? And you were going in the opposite direction, right?
It was like a world where it was separated. So I had my functioning part, and then I had these moments when I could create space to do yoga and meditation and be in nature. And then I took these breaks of taking months off when I changed jobs, for example, or when I got a promotion. I saved all my vacation days. I went traveling, and I completely dropped into this just being and taking care of my body and connecting with nature. And I could never blend that really together because the dysfunctional patterns in my functionality in that corporate world, they were just too strong. So the yoga was like a drop on a hot stone. Right?
This is
Didn't really
interesting.
sink in.
This is very interesting because I've been also practicing different things for many years, and I've tried, and it's so difficult to live with a so-called normal job, 9 to 5, in that world and stay in this relaxed space because you're having all this stuff flying around.
Yes.
I mean, it depends on what kind of work you have, of course, but I've been working with project management and things like that, and then it's always stuff happening.
It depends on your resource situation.
Yeah.
If you are able to, if you know how to resource yourself and you can create a really good foundation, then it really supports you to do yoga and meditation. But if your resource situation is really minimalistic, then the effect of yoga, it's just like this, because the other parts are too strong and too dominant.
Can you give an example about what the resource is for you?
Yes.
Like, so for people that might not understand.
Yes. So it's the base of my work and the base of my life. So I'm first of all, I look at the situation how I'm living. So I need nature around me. I need it quiet. I can't have any traffic or things like that. And I need to have a daily practice so that I have some movement in my life. And resourcing is also how am I dealing with situations which bring me into a charge, right? So if I have a fight with someone and I have a lot of anger, what do I do with all these charges? So I have a daily practice of discharging myself. Right? I have a meditation practice. I'm very connected to gratitude. Right? So I have these moments when I can completely drop in and I feel I'm really in my body. So I have a lot of practices which help me to be in my body, and my body is the biggest resource I'm having. Because if I have the grounding inside of me.
But what is this?
What it is?
What is it? To be in the body.
To be in the body means I am really fully connected. So when I breathe, like the breath is one thing. It's the most important thing maybe, right? So I can consciously breathe myself down into any state. I can breathe myself into states of high arousal, and I can breathe myself into states of really deep relaxation. I can also breathe myself into states of high focus. So I'm directing my breath. I can work with pain with my breath. Right? I'm receiving body work. I do movement practices which help me to feel my body. So this is a lot about feeling the energy flowing and a lot about listening to the body, right? So what's really going on with my nervous system?
The senses, right?
Yeah, when you ask me, I had this little moment of I don't know how to answer this question. So a moment of overwhelm, and I felt like, so the first thing I did was, okay, we are not here in a competition, so why can I not answer? I can answer that question, but maybe I need a little bit more input. So it was like a lot of stuff going on with me in microseconds, right? So what am I doing with that? I sit with it and breathe. I could also go and talk.
Because
right?
I find this really interesting, because when I had basically been doing Tantra for a year, I had a girlfriend, and she was like, you're not in your body. I'm like, what? I couldn't understand what it was.
Yeah.
But now I do understand, but I still find it little bit tricky to explain, but for me it's a lot about feeling myself,
Yes.
feeling my body.
It is feeling, and it's about a certain, how can I describe it? It's like a fluidity. So when I look at someone, then I look at how are their movement patterns, right? So are they fluid? Are they connected when they are walking? What are the shoulders doing? Are the shoulders here, or are the shoulders down and relaxed? What's happening here? Right? Is the jaw relaxed? And then I look at the body and like, is there any tension somewhere? So you can see it with the whole architecture and the whole structure. And that speaks so much already. So if you have a lot of, we call it armor, shields of protection in your body where areas get tight and are not fluid anymore, that means that energy cannot flow. And that's a space of disconnection. And any disconnection leads to being somewhere but not in the body, because you're disconnected from parts of your body, right? So a lot of people are disconnected from their hearts. So I have clients who come and they want to have for example, female clients, they want to have a yoni massage. I say we cannot work with that part yet, because we need to work with the big chunks first and bring you into a state of receptivity, right?
And you're
so
talking
how to
about
ground in the body.
You're talking about De-Armouring now, or you're talking about some other work?
I'm not only doing De-Armouring, because my approach is holistic, right? So for me it's about how can you come into your body, how can you be healthy, how can you relate in a healthy way with your environment, how can you relate healthy with yourself, how can you be connected, and how can you feel really alive, right? And then how can you be connected with your sexuality, because we can talk about life force energy, we can also call that sexual energy, right? So it's what is connecting us with ourselves, the juice, everything. So go through life, feel everything, be courageous, feel all emotions, feel anger, feel sadness, feel grief, feel frustration, feel joy, because it's not only about the painful areas which we are usually suppressing, it's also about how much pleasure do I allow myself, and how much joy can I have, huh?
What would be the opposite to that? Because that I find it
to what,
to being
exactly?
in the body, to feeling the body, to feeling your sexuality, feeling pleasure and everything.
Be in the mind, for example, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Is it being in the mind?
Yes, you could. So, talking about myself, I was high potential, right? So, brilliant mind. So, I was solving any issues with my mind. And it's amazing to have a brilliant mind. But there is something lacking. So how can I make decisions where I'm really aligned with? So I made myself this promise in some point where I said, I'm not going to make any decisions based on pure rationality anymore. I want to make all my decisions from my gut feeling, from my intuition. And I can find all answers to any question which I'm having in my life in my body. So I'm like feeling into it, and then I know. And for the impatient people, yes. Let me just finish this one thing.
Yes.
For the people who really need to make the decision because it has to be made, because that was me.
Yeah.
If you can't feel it, it's not time to make the decision yet. So it's about, okay, I can't feel it. Maybe I have to wait, which makes flight tickets quite expensive. That's another thing, but it's really living a life from a wisdom which comes within, because that's where we are coming from. We are part of nature, we can be connected.
And now
right?
I have to ask this question. Because I totally agree with this, but I see a big obstacle, and it's like you're going to make a decision, it's like, oh no, I can't do that. And how do you know that that is not just fear? How do you distinguish that this is an intuition, that I can feel this is right in my body, or this is an old fear that actually blocked me from going to talk to that person or whatever you're going to do?
Yeah. So the answer you don't want to hear is, it's practice.
Yeah.
I assume you don't
course.
want to.
Yeah.
It's a question of practice. But then there are a lot of
not more practice.
more practice of coming into the body and feeling.
Mm.
And there are a lot of tools you can use, right? So one of the ones which I learned was, we call it reality check.
Mm.
And if it's fear is very strong emotion, right?
Yeah.
And fear really sits strongly in the body. We have a muscle, the psoas muscle, which is connecting us here, our core muscle. So we need this muscle for fight, flight, to run away, to be safe. So this is a storage for fear that sits here.
Yeah.
So if we release this muscle, the fear can go. And if the fear is a fear which feels really old and it feels very familiar and it's very painful, then the probability that it's an old fear and that it's caused by something related to my past and not to the actual reality, because there is no tiger in the room, is
I
really
have
high.
a teacher, he used to say, who's holding the gun?
Yeah, we say, is there a tiger in the room or not? So what is fear? Fear means that I am not in the present moment. Fear means I am in the future. Because if there is no tiger in the room, it's about thinking about a future scenario which might come, but we don't know. So what it's doing, it's taking us out of the present moment. It's a different story if I look over the shoulder and there's a tiger sitting and it's
Then
really
you
hungry.
should run.
Yes, you should run.
Maybe not you, Victor.
And-
He'll
and-
fight it.
Victor's good, definitely.
I have to
gonna
share
fight
one experience.
Yeah.
When it comes to fighting, like your girlfriend punched your shoulder and said you're not in the body.
Yeah.
And me and Peter went for massage. I think it was yesterday or the day before, around the corner from here. And I was just asking very politely to the massage therapist that she wouldn't just sit on top of me so much. And she was quite big, this woman, you know. So like, please, because I came up like, I have a really bad back, so I want a back massage. And she started like immediately like walking on my back, and I was like, can you go a little bit slower and a little bit softer? And then she was a bit angry, and eventually she brought, I don't know if it was her mother or somebody, but somebody came and punched my shoulder and said, stop complaining, kind of. And
Okay, tell me the name. I don't want to go
yeah,
there.
I have to warn you about this place. And I was like, I'm trying to relax here. We're talking about relaxation, you know, to go
Yeah.
deeper.
I mean,
I was like, this is like a comedy, you know, what
We're
you're
in
definitely not
Thailand.
supposed to do in a session, right?
Yeah.
Come up and punch your client.
Yes.
I think
That's
it's a
unbelievable.
cultural misunderstanding.
It was a big misunderstanding, but I told him after, like, some advice for you in the future: don't punch your client.
No.
You know.
Another technique which I learned and I am still practicing is how do I know if it's something real or not, was the question, right? So,
Or if it's like a projection or
It's
something from your past.
Yes.
Okay.
So I call it the superhero. And I am thinking in that situation, so first of all, I need to create myself space to not react to the fear, right? That's where it all starts. So I need to take this one breath and take this moment to be still and think and feel. And I'm then connecting with them. I have a friend of mine on my mind, and I am thinking about what would she do in that situation. Would she also feel like punching back, right? Running away, which was a big pattern of me, which I had. I was leaving group situations on a regular basis, so because I went into a space of overwhelm. But there was nothing to run away from. It was just my internal building up of triggers that I couldn't stay. So I learned with practice to stay in that moment. First I was running away, and while I was running away, I knew already this is very dysfunctional, but I'm doing it consciously, right? Next time I was staying for a moment longer and then running away. Next time I was staying, right? Next time I was like, it's always having a breath more, having a little bit more break before you go into reaction. So I'm thinking about what would my friend do? Would she also feel like this? And that's usually the answer already. And when I know she would also run away, I'm running. But when I think, no, she would be super relaxed, then I'm like, okay, I can be relaxed in this situation. And there are many tricks, yeah? So everybody has to see what works for you.
So many people go directly into a reaction, right?
Yes.
Including myself, I have to say.
Yeah.
Like, my first instinct after like we had some conflict at the massage place was like, I don't want to stay in this space where they, because of the misunderstanding, right? They were kind of angry at me.
Yeah,
I was
and you're
like,
paying money for it, right?
No, of course I didn't pay.
No, but the idea is like,
yeah. I left, you know. But then I was like, maybe I should have just stayed and just sit together a little bit here. Like, okay, so you thought I was complaining, so you punched me. It's like, what's going on? Like, you know, you should look a little bit at this, you know.
Yeah.
But my first reaction was like, I don't want to be in this vibe or like in this place of conflict, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, that's a situation where I think it's healthy to remove yourself when you are in a bodywork situation and they come with violence, right? It doesn't make sense to stay. But let's take this into a situation of we are here as friends and we are having a conflict. So it's not solving anything to run away, right? It's in this moment of staying, breathing together and going into a cycle of sharing what's really going on. So instead of, you know, you would tell me, for example, Sunny, you punched me. That's not okay, right? So you would attack me. But if you would say, Sunny, I really feel violated and I feel fear because you have been punching me. So there's something happening to me that I cannot stay in this space with you. I feel like I need to run away. So you're talking from your body to me. So what's happening with me? I just really take it in. I even get goosebumps, right? Because this is how I'm solving situations where I'm in. I'm like, oh wow, yeah. And then I can think about it. Do I want to cause this reaction for you with whatever I'm doing? Because you don't tell me what to do. You're just talking about yourself, right?
So now you're talking also about being vulnerable. Or?
Yeah, he is very vulnerable with sharing that with me, right?
Yeah.
Instead of fighting back, because the fighting is, there is maybe violence or tension from my side. If you add more to it, what's happening is just getting more. There is no solution. But if you have this moment of dropping in, talking from the body and sharing,
from your own experience,
it's a different resonance. And we are talking about nervous system, your nervous system, which is stressed, mine, because I was for whatever reason punching you, maybe because you didn't behave.
I was complaining.
You didn't behave, right? So we have two nervous systems, but how can we make the group nervous system of all three of us here now come into relaxation? And that's working with the body, right?
I want to ask you something, because now we're talking about basically different techniques to relax and to communicate and so on.
And to be in the body.
And to be in the body. What do you work with?
I am working with exactly that. I'm working with human beings. I'm supporting them to come into their bodies and to connect with their bodies, to feel emotions, to have a relaxed nervous system, to be able to resource themselves, to feel fully alive, to have healthy relationships, because if you have a healthy relationship with yourself, you are acting from a different space with other people, right? And also to connect to their sexuality, right? To be fully in this life, in this body, because I believe it's just such a gift. Well, I'm gifted with this body. Hey, this is amazing. Look at these arms, fingers, everything. It's like I can be here, and the body is the vehicle to feel everything. So
and
I want to have it all. Yeah.
And now you feel like this. But some years ago, when you were at that office, you didn't really feel like that.
No, I didn't feel. I didn't have. I had chronic pain for more than 20 years.
Where?
Where?
In the body?
In the body.
Which, like where?
Back.
Back pain.
Back a lot of headache, and back was a lot around the shoulders and around the sacrum. And from a somatic point of view, we say the shoulders is the burden we are carrying. So I was overly responsible for other people's stuff.
More. also have this.
I took it all. No one asked me to. I just did it, right? So I wasn't overwhelmed because it's not my business, but I took on because I tried everything to not be with myself, right?
I had a teacher who once told me, Peter, you need to let other people take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Well, this is not your responsibility.
Yeah.
they can respond for themselves and tell what they want. And I'm like, okay, so I don't have to think about what they need and try to fix things. No, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
They can ask for it. And that was a big shift in my life.
Yes.
Like 10
I have a very fun project, and that is actually to resolve Peter's back issue.
Yeah.
But I don't think of it as like responsibility work. I think of it more as like a fun science project almost, you know. Has so many exercises and so many techniques, and but I think also would be, because that's not my work to have an approach which is psychosomatic. So I think like a person like you could help them with that aspect more, and I have the more physical aspect when it comes to my work.
He right now he's like, Peter, don't walk like this. Walk like this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
So
trying to adjust his
hunched
posture, kind of.
Posture a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, you can adjust your posture when your architecture allows it, because you're going into that posture because your body has been decompensating it, right? So it's about deep tissue work, but then it's also something about the attitude from inside, right? So lifting up the chest, breathing, and it's completely changing. If you look at my body when I was a teenager and I was at school and I got bullied, I was like this. And what is this? It's a shape of a posture of protection.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about the psychological background and talking about Wilhelm Reich, who was a psychoanalyst, studied in the 1930s, and he found that there's a connection between tension in different areas of the body and psychological issues. So this he categorized people into body types. And my body type was clearly the oral body type, which is really needed. So that's a deprivation which happens in around the second year of life, right? And that was my posture. So with all this work and self-development and healing, what happened? It came out of my body. I released it. So, and I can feel it still these days when I have something and it's really triggering for me, like really super strong. My body wants to go back into this default, and then I'm like, it feels horrible. I don't want to be there, and I know exactly how to create my own alignment, right?
Yeah.
So everything can change when we can. The whole body structure is changing when we can release trauma, tension, numbness. When we learn healthier behaviors, when we see what's conditioning, and come to how do I want to live my life? How can I be happy, right? How can I allow pleasure? How can I relax? And coming to what your teacher told you, that you should let other people resolve their own problems. That's very wise, absolutely. And it needs two people, right? Because our pattern is to just fix, right? So I need to fix myself, I need to fix other people. So I'm having a contract with my closest friends, right? So we have agreements. And it's I'm responsible for my emotions and you are responsible for yours. If I need support, I'm gonna ask for it. And that's the thing with don't throw unasked advice at other people. So at the same time, it holds me back from being the savior, right? I think this is something which might resonate with you, right? Being the savior, saving other people.
This is something I want to tell another friend. I was like, please stop trying to save me or something like this. Like always giving me advice. I was like, I don't want to hear it, you know.
Yes, exactly. So it's about the only person who can save me is myself. Right? I need to make my own mistakes and to find my own solutions which are fitting for me. And then if I need support, my gosh, I'm so happy to ask. And then I get something. But that's really on the point, in the moment when I'm receptive to receive it, right? Because if you throw advice on me, it might be the best thing, it would be really valuable for me, but I'm not in the space to receive it. So it's like this, right?
I'm very curious, like from one body worker to another, like the actual technique of de-armoring, because I've actually been thinking about joining your training. Me and also another friend, we were
Yes.
looking when you posted on Facebook that you were going to hold a training in Berlin. So we were like, should we go? Maybe we should do it, like,
Yes.
because he's also a massage therapist.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious, like for example, the psoas muscle.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know that there's a trauma stored in that specific muscle? Tell me a little bit about the actual work when it comes to the technique.
Yes. So, de-armoring is not about technique. I have to disappoint you a little bit. De-armoring is a practice in the way how I am understanding and teaching it and sharing it, of deep listening to the body in the moment. So de-armoring can range from really elbow on the psoas and my full body weight, that's the one extreme, to I'm just present with you. And on one day you might need this, on the other day you need the other end of the scale. I'll give you one example. I had a client who was, how is it called, a stuntman. You know what a stuntman is?
Yeah.
They are being paid for destroying their bodies.
Yeah.
That's how you could describe it, huh? They're saving Tom Cruise's ass. So
But I heard he does a lot of stunts himself, right? Tom Cruise, isn't it? I heard something like that.
I don't know.
Anyway.
So his body was conditioned for 20 years to take in more pain. So we were in a session, in a training, and someone else was giving him a session. Then they called me and they said, Sunny, it's somehow not working. So I sat down with him as a teacher. Of course, I'm coming and I'm supervising people, right? And first I explain all the technique, what to do, which emotions we are working, and then students go and have their own practice and go into a giving and a receiving, because the experiencing it yourself is part of learning it, because we are learning it with the body, right? So I was about to apply a lot of pressure on his psoas in the way how the technique goes, and all of a sudden I got goosebumps and I felt like, what am I doing here? This feels really wrong. And he was like, stronger, stronger, stronger. And I was just like, no, I cannot do this. So I stepped back and I was just breathing and I was looking at him. And then I said, I cannot continue what you have been doing to your body. I cannot put more violence and pressure. It's impossible for me. Because I could come with a sledgehammer and it would be not enough. You would ask for more. And then I just looked at him and I saw a lot of stuff going on. At first he was going into tension because he wanted to claim and have more, because that's the pattern, right? And then he was having a big question mark. So what to do with this situation? She's staring at me. Huh? And then I just continued just holding space for him and looking at him, huh? And all of a sudden something happened. He went through a shift and I really felt like his nervous system was like, coming down. And then he started crying. He hasn't been crying for 20 years. So the de-armoring, in his case, the technique was be present with him and bringing his attention to what's really happening. Because I got a resonance from his body and the body was like, I cannot have more pain.
All right. So, Sunny, from one therapist to another.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more specifically about what the work of de-armoring looks like.
Yes. So it first needs a basic understanding of the word itself, the term, right? De-armoring means we can remove the armor we have been building up around our body due to the traumatic experiences, tension, conditioning, behaviors, right? So it's a layer of protection. And we are talking about cellular memory. So there are different techniques you can use, which is triggering certain points, having touch, rolfing, so different ways of stretching to speak to different body parts which are storing different emotions. So for example, when we're talking about the psoas muscle is known for storing fear. But that doesn't mean that there's only fear or that the fear doesn't sit in other body parts as well. It's very individual, right? And for example, frustration sits here, right? The masata here, the
Under the
relaxed
beard.
jaw. If someone is like, oh, I really want this, it's not happening, then there's a lot of tension here. This part is at the same time connected to our roots, to the anus. Right, so we are coming again to areas of sexuality. So it's life force energy. We are setting free to flow when we are removing the blockages, and it's also sexual energy.
Can the blockage be like, for example, a person holding physical tension in
Yes.
that specific muscle? That could be a
Yes.
sign of a blockage, kind of, or?
Yes. So when we're talking about, for example, my story with my back pain and around my sacrum, I mean, why I'm sharing the de-armouring is because it was for me just something which was life-changing. So I've been going through the whole psychotherapy, I was stable, but I still couldn't really connect to joy, right? And to real pleasure, and somehow the juice was missing. So I went on looking for alternative methods, and I went to this de-armouring training, and for me in my first training, I've had a major outburst of physical pain, emotional pain, and all this suppressed anger, grief, frustration, all of this came out, right? So I was like, such a massive outburst, and all of a sudden I felt energy flowing, so right after, right? So what's happening is you're giving an impulse to certain areas, certain points in the body. So it's about knowing anatomy and knowing the connection with the emotions. And then there's a process of release happening. And it can be that I'm crying like crazy and I'm really sad. It can be that my body is crying, but I don't feel sadness because it's just a release. It can be laughter, it can be orgasming because something is removed. All of a sudden, poof, the energy comes out. So, and it's changing depending on where I am in my life. So we do this as an intense phase of having different sessions or going to a training, but it's nothing which you would do like once in a week you go for a foot massage. You don't do that with de-armouring. It's more something strong to remove the shields and the layers, to remove the muscle tension and loosen up the tissue so that there is more movement of energy. And then of course it's about looking at where the tension comes from. So it only makes sense if we go to the source and look at our behavioral patterns. Because otherwise we release and then we go back to our life where our environment is waiting for us, right? All the patterns. We do the same things. What's happening again? You put the armor back in. So it's really holistic.
So if you go here and get a really good Thai massage and you feel great afterwards, I've been doing that for years, and my tension usually comes back.
Yeah.
And you say that is because it's stored emotions.
Yes, it's stored emotions, it's stored memories, it's stored tension, it's stored trauma, it's stored, and it's in the physical body, but it's also in the emotional body and in the energetical body. So we are talking about working with the so-called pain body, and the pain body is something very fluid. Because the body holds on, this is the armor, so the body holds on to it, and it's a very, very delicate thing how to access the pain body so that it can release and not re-traumatize the body, because you're working with pressure. So it's a whole listening, feeling, breathing process, which the word itself, de-armor, sounds brutal. But the approach how I am teaching it is really the opposite. It's super gentle. I would say it's more about melting the armor away. And the important thing is when I'm giving you a session, for example, you are telling me what to do. So I'm listening to your body, you are listening to your body, right? Because it's from moment to moment. And you will give me feedback. We are in a constant communication, verbal or non-verbal, about where you are, where it sits, what is needed, right? And so you are all the time in charge, because what we are needing as a base is the feeling of safety, And now we're coming back to nervous system, right? Relaxation of the nervous system, feeling safe, and that's the foundation to release, because we are releasing old stuff, right? We are releasing what's holding us back.
But when you, for example, say that you release it, is it like if you really go to the root and you release it with this type of work, then you kind of break the cycle of re-triggering that tension once you're out into the world and you get faced with this thing that normally makes you put on the armor again, kind of. So there is a way with this technique to actually break the cycle.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And there is a way. So a session or a training is not only about the release. It's really, like I said, about breaking your own patterns. So you need to become aware of your patterns, change them, and then you will learn practices how to do a discharge for yourself. So, for example, we have so much suppressed anger in the body. A lot of, I mean, it doesn't matter if man or woman, right? So let's say you release all the suppressed anger, which we have been suppressing, for example, about our parents, how they have been raising us, right? So we release all of that, and then we go back into life, and we have situations where we take in anger, situation with your boss, and you can't say, I'm angry with you, because it's your boss. So you need to find a way to discharge in daily life, and we're teaching a lot about that. So no matter if you come to a training or if you have a session with me, there's always going to be homework, how to integrate a healthy way of being with your emotions and feeling them, because we do not always have space to do it in that moment. But it's about not suppressing it then and finding a space to release. So for example, my magic tool, it's a pool noodle. Do you know what a pool noodle is?
No. What was that?
These are these long things you have in a swimming pool, and you can bend them.
Yeah.
And they have different colors.
You can use them to beat.
Yes,
things.
exactly. So it's breath, sound, and movement, which is a vibration which helps to release, right? So I'm taking a pool noodle and I'm completely freaking out, and I'm becoming very personal. I say, "You fucking asshole!" Let me do that.
You do to your students?
No. I do that as a demo. They get very motivated. So it's very easy for them to step into that. We had a situation where we did a whole demo with a team last time, and everybody was like, oh, and they completely freaked out. So what it does is I'm releasing my anger, and anger is something which we usually suppress, but then anger is using me, right? Because it comes out and hits our beloved ones when it has nothing to do with them. They are innocent.
You know what? When you're saying this, I remember something. I did Primal Therapy,
Yeah.
and the teacher was really good. And she said to me, Peter, you tend to be a nice guy, but it's coming out sideways, she said. And I was like, oh, she's so nasty. You know? And after this 9 days or 8 days, whatever it was, of hell, you know, a lot of this and stuff, I realized that, okay, so I'm trying to be nice, so all these stored emotions I have inside,
is there.
they're coming out like
Yes.
in ugly ways
Exactly.
that I'm not aware of.
And it's like you're venting it out in moments when your tolerance level is full.
Yeah.
And then it hits usually the ones which are closest to us. So we are causing collateral damage to our relationships. Means the best way to take care of that is, let's say I released all this anger with my father and my mother and blah, 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 blah. And so I'll take my pool noodle. I have something which makes me really angry. For example, the feeling of being powerless. It drives me nuts, right? So I have someone at the moment in my life where we are in a work relationship, and the person is just letting me feel powerless because she is avoidant. So I have no way to get hold of her, and I'm just trying, and I feel like I'm getting really angry. So in some point I'm losing my Zen master, right? So I'll take my pool noodle, I actually did it this morning, and freak out, and I'm like, I can't say her name, not like, and I just did that for 2 minutes, and I'm like, so I can meet her as a Zen master again, because the emotional charge is gone. Now I can talk from my body. and I can communicate with her in a relaxed way because I took care of myself, right? And it's a tool. Anger is something which is cleansing. It's very purifying. I'm using anger. Anger is not using me, right?
Sure. But if I understand it correctly, the work can be used from two directions. Like a person can come with an emotional issue,
Yeah.
and a person can come with a physical issue, right?
Yes, both.
But they're kind of course, it's holistic, so they're all connected, right?
Yes.
What is the most normal scenario of a person coming for a session of de-armoring?
Let's say my clients, they come from all different directions. So they come because they feel disconnected. They don't get orgasms, for example. They feel blocked in their body. They have physical pain in some areas. And I'm having a conversation with everyone before, and then we decide what kind of session they need, right? Maybe they need not a de-armoring, maybe they need something to drop into their heart with a Hawaiian healing massage, or they want to straight work with sexuality, or they need something to ground and calm down in their system first, or they want to have a de-armoring, right? So it really depends on the whole context. And mostly it's unexpected. So when I had all this physical pain as a chronic pain patient, I didn't know that the pain was actually stored trauma information. So after my first de-armoring workshop, I was pain-free. So I had chronic pain for 20 years. Imagine. I did psychotherapy and nothing helped. So I had this massive outburst, and that was it. So it sounds really simple if I would have known before, right? So for me it was perfect. For someone else it might be something different. So, but so far.
Can it be like a person have tried, like for example, I'm a massage therapist, right? So I guess it's connected also to my background as a personal trainer. I'm more like of an anatomical outlook on things, right? On a
Yes.
physical level, but maybe somebody has been coming to me and the problems are kind of reoccurring with, let's say, a physical pain somewhere in the body. And then maybe the next step would be to look if this is connected more to the emotional pain body, right?
Absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So if physical, because I had lots of physiotherapy, right? And they have never been working with my emotions. They are interested in working with the tissues, but they are not educated to go deeper into psychology or emotion, right? So that's the big difference.
So about now you've been talking about your sessions, but you also do like longer workshops or
Yes.
trainings, right?
So I'm running facilitating retreats, and that means it's a framework of usually 6 days. We have 2 different levels at the moment, and a mentoring program also. And the first level we are working with areas on the body, like outside, like the psoas muscle, the diaphragm, the solar plexus, the head, something on the back also. And in the second level we are working internally. So we do de-armoring in the mouth, we do de-armoring inside of the vagina, inside of the anus, around the penis. So these are the 2 levels. And in these 6 days it's like a very intense, nourishing, releasing treatment. So students learn how to give and receive de-armoring, and receiving is not that simple, right? Because most of the people don't know what receiving means. So receiving means to stop giving at the same time.
Yeah.
So we start with that, with the basics, right? And how can I listen to my body? Because they learn how to create safety within themselves. They learn methods how to relax their nervous system. And then they go into these sessions, supervised sessions, learn how to give and receive that. And we are traveling through the body, yeah? So different emotions, different areas, and open up more and more and more. And the journey is more or less from the physical, very physical body into the energetical body. Because the more you open the physical body, the more access you have to the energetical body, or from trauma to trust, or from pain body to bliss body, right? It's all this journey of opening up. And there's a physical opening, so movement patterns are changing, body structures are opening. Usually this part is opening, so shoulders go down and back, breathing is different, more presence, eyes are shining more. a lot of things how you can see it. When we do a photo before and after, you wouldn't believe it's the same people after just 6 days, right?
Wow.
And then they become very aware of what their triggers are. So we really put the finger in the wounds, right? So where am I in my savior? Where am I needy? How can I be available if I'm unavailable? And then we have usually for relaxation of the nervous system, we have sound healing. So we work strongly with vibrations and frequencies. Now in the next retreat in Bali, for example, we work with tuning forks on the body. So I have specific tuning forks which are for working on the body. And that's something when we are coming to the area of the heart opening, working with emotions of grief and loss and betrayal, right? That's all sits in the heart. It's very beautiful to work with this frequency, because it's something where you also don't need the mind. It just goes into the body on a very fine level. And then we have a lot of meditation, because de-armouring itself, in the way how I'm teaching it, is a meditation. We are dropping into a very sacred space together, right? When I'm giving you a session and you receive this healing and you are going into a release, I will have a release as well. So the trauma of one person in the room can heal the whole group. So it's like a really potent space where so much is happening. Everybody's supporting each other. We have sharing circles. We have a lot of movement, everything which helps the tissue. Unwinding. We have a specific yoga for opening the hips, for example. We do shaking. We have a really big emphasis on how does it go on after the retreat, because a lot of retreats are like, you have this crazy experience, especially in the Tantra world, you know what I'm talking about, and then people crash after. So for us, it's so important to have an integration into life. So I have this, I learned this, how can I take this into my life? Because I want transformation. I want growth. I want real integration. That's really driving me. That's my passion. So everything goes in this direction.
And I have one question is, I mean, you've been talking now about how you came from the corporate world and now you're teaching this amazing stuff. Where, when or what was the shift? I think you might have answered this question, but I just want to clarify it. When did you see, okay, this is the way, this is what I want to do?
It was a very, it's a good question, and many people are asking me these questions, and I still don't have the answer of this one key. I think it was the combination of trying different methods and accessing breath, sound and movement in different ways in a combination, developing a daily practice. The de-armouring opens the doors for my sexual energy, for my life force energy. And also in the context of de-armouring, and my teacher at that time, he said to me, Sunny, you need to stop being a victim. My answer was, I'm not a victim.
Of course.
Oh my gosh, I was a professional victim for 20 plus years because I was so attached to my story. So what it did for me, the de-armouring, was it really grounded me in my body and helped me to see this pattern of not being in the present. That was a big, big key. Learning how to relax my nervous system is another really, really big key, right? And then being authentic, being able to get answers from my body was very, very important. And I think a moment of breakthrough was the moment when I gave up to try to heal desperately. That was a big one.
I recognize that one.
Oh, it was like
Surrender.
I'm burned out from my healing process. I just can't do it anymore.
Stop trying.
I have to stop trying. And that created such a deep relaxation that all of a sudden everything was opening up and flowing. And I was like, wow, what's happening here?
I think that's a key in general to life, you know. It's
absolutely.
Like, how do you relax and be more in the flow? It's an art in a way, and it takes time to discover how it works and how it is, but it's really...
You know what I realized? We should maybe ask Sunny to take a card.
Yes.
Oh,
I was going to ask you, do you have any more questions, Victor?
Okay. I'm so curious about these cards. Tell me a little bit about them.
So this cards is from a guy called Nokunu, and I think they're really, really beautiful.
Yeah, I
This
saw
is,
them before.
St. George and the Dragon. Well, let's not talk so much about the cards because I want you to take a card.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, these cards, they have questions, and we might not know the answer to the question, but it's interesting to just see when you take a card what comes up.
Yes.
So
And yeah, just feel into it as well.
and
You
it's
don't-
just for fun.
Yeah. Of course. Maybe I can answer the question, who am I after this?
Maybe.
Let's see.
Who knows?
Oh no, not that one. Okay,
Do you have a plan
this
for
one.
me?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, do it. So I'm taking a deep breath in. I'm dropping all my expectations. I connect with my inner wisdom, and I take this card.
Okay, sure about that one?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay, and what does it say?
that's amazing. How is it to experience the body?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
That one was for you.
It's beautiful. We came to this life to experience life in this body, right? So I really want to feel everything. That's like my purpose. And I want to connect to other beings and feel everything together and be authentic and drop the mask. And that's not easy. It's something which really needs practice and coming back to this inner wisdom again and again. And be authentic. Fail. And repair. And move on, right?
Yeah.
So, how is it to be in the body? It's very colorful. It's an ever-changing journey of bliss, of anger, of desperation, and of always with this wisdom that whatever is happening now, it's gonna change, right? So it's like the present moment never ends because it's now in the body, and now, and now, and now. And every moment is different. So
The only thing that's
an
constant is
adventure.
change.
yes,
Right, yeah.
exactly. So I love my body. I love to feel everything in my body. I'm so grateful. And I'm coming from a space of disconnection and being in this life now and feeling it. And I feel so alive. With all my wisdom and all my genius moments and all my mess. Yes.
You welcome everything.
Yes, it's a lot about welcoming everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing also. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Thanks for inviting.
When is your next training?
So the next retreat is going to be in Bali. And for all of my retreats, I'm having a very special setup. So we have changing teams. So we have a core team, but we have guest teachers every time. So the theme for Bali this year is nature, vibration and frequency. So we work a lot with sound healing, being out in nature, having a temple purification ceremony, having a fire ceremony.
And what date?
It's January 29th to February 4th. And that's the last one for this year in Asia. And then we are moving, as every year, back to beautiful Europe.
Deutschland?
Yes, we have something in Deutschland, in Germany. So it starts in April with a retreat in Austria, up in the mountains, in nature. And then we are going in May to Berlin, like 40 minutes outside of Berlin, a magical venue with a lake, and in the forest, a magical garden. And having another one in Austria then in autumn. And level 1 and 2 in combination in close to Berlin in September. So there's a lot going on.
Cool.
So you can learn de-armouring, you can go into self-nourishing, you have meditations, you have sound healing, you learn new patterns.
If
yes.
people want to find you, you have a website?
Yes, the website is sunnyjulove.com.
Okay, so we will put a link below
Yes.
for all the viewers.
and also I'm on Instagram, so it's sunnyjulove. And yeah, so you can come to one of my retreats or book a private session with me. I'm working with couples also, so it depends, huh? What is needed in that moment.
Thank you so much, Sunny.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Hug each other a little bit and say thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed. We
See
had
you
a really
next
good time.
time.
See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.